Hey folks, this is Tony Cottaspoti from the Great Vocal Majority Podcast. Today I'm going to talk about the election. Actually it's the campaign, presidential campaign that's going on and all the goings on. I'm not going to talk an awful lot about it, but I want to bring out a couple of things that I think are really important that people need to look for. So let's get started with this. Now here's Hugh Hewitt. Hugh Hewitt is a conservative radio talk show host. He was working in the Reagan administration, I think in the Justice Department. And he had an interview with Mike Morell. And I want you to listen to this.
Now, I want to finish by telling you about Benghazi. And you have quite an extensive, detailed note here. I am actually not one of those people who care much about the talking points. I actually didn't know any of this back and forth. I didn't know you'd been impugned.
Probably bored you then.
Well, I went through it thinking to myself, that's not the issue. The issue is, what did the president know, and when did he know, and what did he do it? What did the Secretary of State know, and when did she know, and what did she do it? Not what happened over at CIA between you and Petraeus and everyone. I always thought you guys were kind of feeding information as best you could, and you weren't helping the White House cover up, but that they may have been acting politically where they ought to have been acting as leader of the free world and the Secretary of State. What did you make of the Secretary of State having a private server in her house?
So I don't think that was a very good judgment. I don't know who gave her that advice, but it was not good advice. She's paying a price for it now. It was not good.
As a professional matter, do you believe that at least one or perhaps many foreign intelligence services have everything that went to and from that server?
So I think that foreign intelligence services, the good ones, have everything on any unclassified network that the government uses, whether it's a private server or a public one. They're that good.
So that's a yes.
Yep.
Now this is important because Mike Morell is a professional in the CIA, or now he's retired. But what he's basically telling you is that forget the politics of this. Hillary Clinton's server had to have been compromised by any intelligence agency in the world who wanted it. That is devastating. Now, Fox News did a poll recently, and this poll had a question, the results of which were really astounding. And here's the question as you see it here. It says, as you may know, while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she used personal email account and a computer server at her home to do government work. In March, Clinton said no emails on her private server contained classified information. However, internal government investigators, those are the inspectors general, recently determined classified information was contained in Clinton's emails on that server. And here's the question. Do you think Clinton knowingly lied about the emails, or there's another explanation? 58% believe she knowingly lied. But that's only half of the astounding aspect of this poll result. Only 2% of the country believe Hillary Clinton is telling the truth. That's mind-boggling. Especially when you look at the way Clinton is reacting publicly to this. And this is what a truly arrogant person who believes they're entitled and they've appointed themselves as the heir apparent to the presidency. This is what it looks like.
So I am delighted to be here with you and with my fellow candidates. And I know that people across the country are following us on social media as well. By the way, you may have seen that I recently launched a Snapchat account. I love it. Those messages disappear all by themselves.
Now, how arrogant is that? You just heard one of the leaders of the CIA say that everything on her server was compromised. She's the Secretary of State. She conducted all of her business on that server. As the Secretary of State, she's going to have highly classified information on that in her communications. Therefore, everything that the Secretary of State did through email was known by every agency in the world who wanted to know about it, including our enemies. And this is the attitude she's taking. And no one's believing her. That's 2% of the country is believing her. It's amazing. But I want to talk about now is how the media treats not Hillary Clinton so much, but Democrats or liberals versus Republicans or conservatives. And I want to use two very extreme examples here of how Chuck Todd from Meet the Press conducted interviews with presidential candidates. In this first one, he's conducting it's only about a minute and a half clip, but he's conducting an interview with Donald Trump. And I believe in this interview that Chuck Todd handles the interview the way a true adversarial journalist is supposed to handle an interview.
Welcome back. Few things that Donald Trump has said during the campaign has attracted more attention than his negative comments about Mexican immigrants. However, he's been light on detail on how he'd addressed illegal immigration. Well, yesterday on his plane, he handed me his immigration plan, about an 8-page plan. He wants to end the automatic right of citizenship for anyone born in the country. That's probably the biggest news in the plan. And he plans to immediately rescind President Obama's executive order that stopped the deportations of some younger undocumented immigrants who had entered the country as children. Here's a little bit more from him.
The executive order gets rescinded. One good thing about
you'll rescind that one too.
One good thing
You'll
about
rescind the Dream Act executive
you're
order.
going to have to.
DACA.
We have to make a whole new set of standards. And when people come in, they have
So
to
you're
come
going to split
in.
up families.
Chuck,
You're going to deport children.
Chuck, no. We're going to keep the families together. We have to keep the families together.
But you're going to keep
But
them
they have
together
to
out.
go. But they have to go.
What if they have no place to go?
We will work with them. They have to go. Chuck, we either have a country or we don't have a country. Either we have a country or not.
How do you do it?
The cost of doing it. Look at the cost of what we have right now.
The cost of doing it.
Let me ask you this. Do you think
I understand that, but how do you do it?
Do you think there's tremendous cost for the illegals that are in here right now?
Of course there's cost to
Okay,
it.
tremendous. Do you think there's tremendous crime being committed by illegals?
There's definitely evidence that it's happened. There's some
Tremendous,
heinous
far
crime.
greater
There's
than
been some
what
heinous
they've done.
ones.
And you see it all over just last night. All over. We will do it, and we will expedite it so people can come back in.
It's still not clear.
Chuck, it'll work out so well. You will be so happy. In 4 years, you're going to be interviewing me, and you're going to say, what a great job you've done.
Now, there you go. That is adversarial journalism. Now, you may say that Todd was being rude or whatever, but he was pressing, he was challenging, he was trying to get Trump to explain what he was really favoring in terms of this immigration issue. Now, I want you to look at how Donald Trump handled the socialist candidate who's running under the Democratic ticket, Bernie Sanders.
Welcome back. To understand what's going on in the Democratic primary, you have to sample the mood on the ground. And from my 3 days in Iowa, it's clear to me that the Bernie Sanders phenomenon is very real, with the Vermont independent senator attracting huge crowds. Senator Sanders joins me now from Iowa. Senator, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
I have to say I was both in Clear Lake, watched you there, watched you in the soapbox yesterday where you had so many people. The fair stopped. Forget Trump, forget Hillary Clinton. I think you might have had the biggest crowd yesterday. Why do you think you're resonating at this point, and how do you take this from being a movement that seems big in August, and how do you keep it from fading 5 months from now?
Well, Chuck, I think we are resonating all over this country and here in Iowa because we're talking about issues that are life and death issues to the American people. And that is the collapse of the American middle class, the massive and grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in this country, the fact that we are the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people, the fact that millions of working class families are now finding it very, very difficult to send their kids to college, and the basic fact that people are working longer hours for lower wages, and meanwhile almost all of the new income and wealth is going to the top 1%. And then you add to that a campaign finance system as a result of Citizens United that allows billionaire families like the Koch brothers and others to literally buy politicians and corrupt the American political process.
You know, Senator...
Yeah, now that's it. Now he let him go for like a minute and a half without any interruptions, without any challenges. That's advocacy. He's allowing Bernie Sanders to advocate for his position without any challenges. And that just stands in really stark contrast with the way he treated Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump should be treated the way Bernie Sanders was treated. It's quite the opposite. I believe that Bernie Sanders should be treated exactly as Donald Trump was treated. I think it's good when you have adversarial journalism. But, you know, you got to ask yourself, who are these people that are posing as journalists? Who is Chuck Todd? I think he's a Democrat, and he's not really a newsman. He's a former staffer to a Democrat senator, a former Democrat senator from Iowa, Tom Harkin. Tom Harkin is one of the most liberal senators who's ever been in the Senate. And Chuck Todd worked for him on his staff, paid. But it's not just Chuck Todd. His wife is a communications consultant for Democrats. So even when he leaves the job, he comes home and his wife, when she talks about work, she's talking about what she's doing to help Democrats. Chuck Todd never even graduated college. I mean, he went to college. He never graduated. But, you know, that's only an issue when Scott Walker doesn't graduate college because of that one semester he didn't go, that final semester. But you see, but not for the media. The media, that's okay. So after looking at all of this, does it surprise you that Chuck Todd would treat the liberal candidate, in this case he's a socialist, much more than a liberal, so much more favorably than he would treat a conservative Republican? It doesn't make sense if you think that the media isn't biased, but it makes sense when you realize just how biased they are. Now, this video has been brought to you by the Great Vocal Majority, and we have a little motto that I took from Will Rogers. There's something about Republicans that you can only stand them just so long, but on the other hand, there's something about Democrats where you can't even stand them quite that long. So I just ask you to come to our Facebook and join our group. It's facebook.com/group/Great Vocal Majority. Or if you want, you could just like our Facebook page at Great Vocal Majority Podcasts on Facebook. Let's keep the politicians honest. But the best way to do that is by keeping the media honest. Thanks a lot, guys. This is Tony Cottasparty for Great Vocal Majority Podcasts.